Hello, everyone, and thanks, Max, for that presentation. I think if we're all starting with our little connection, then maybe I will start by saying I'm Romanian and Eastern European and very close to my heart. The whole experience of Ukraine throughout the last, it's 10 years by now, really, because of our shared history of what's been happening in that part of the world for many centuries. Whenever whoever was in charge of the Kremlin woke up and said some other bit of Europe was theirs. So, I will start by sharing that little thought before we go into the discussion of the tech sector in Ukraine. Very excited to see the Minister of Digital Transformation again. Hello, Minister.
Hi, everyone.
And we are having 45 minutes to cover the Ukraine tech sector. So you'll have to bear with me because it's only and we'll have to all stick to the time because otherwise all these people are not getting coffee, which it's not ideal in any conference. So maybe briefly pass on straight to the minister. So we start from there. It's great to see you again. Thanks for joining us. We know you're a very busy man, so we're welcoming you for 45 minutes here. Thanks for taking the time to be with us today. So I'll start with you to give us a little presentation. So, Minister, over to you.
Yeah, my pleasure, first of all, and good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to start from expressing my gratitude for this invaluable support that the United Kingdom has been extending to Ukraine during these challenging times. We deeply appreciate this, and both military and financially, along with this technical assistance and everything you do for us. And of course, it's a great pleasure. We celebrate Ukraine Tech Day, an initiative aiming to showcase in Ukraine technology and talent, as well as emphasizing potential for the further strengthenship and partnership between Ukraine and UK. I think we are determined to shape Ukraine's image not just as a nation in war, but also as a country with a robust tech sector. Maybe just briefly, like few numbers. Prior to full-scale invasion, Ukraine IT industry was experiencing remarkable growth. And it was like 40, 50, almost around 40% annually from year over year. So this is just fascinating for me. And our nation was the birthplace for several globally recognized unicorn startups. I remember having this dream, a decade ago, that at some point Ukraine going to have this multi-billion-dollar evaluation companies, and this dream came true. But war had, of course, significant impact on the pace of our development. And in the same time, Ukrainian companies have displayed remarkable resilience and adaptivity. They continue to innovate, deliver high-quality services, fulfill their contracts, create new products. And I think that we still possess the potential to become one of the prominent European IT hub. And this actually was the vision that we had before this full-scale invasion. And our ministry has embraced the role of the ambassador for the IT industry. We have created a DACD, Unique Legal and Tax Framework, which was launched just 2 weeks before Russia invaded Ukraine. We continue to support operation of this company, and DACD residents basically enjoy one of the best tax regulations in the whole Europe. Furthermore, we also dedicated the fostering the growth of Ukrainian startup ecosystem and giving grants, making trade missions. So today, Ukraine is leveraging its technology potential to focus on the development of defense technologies too. We have created the fast track for those companies, launched Brave One, which is a unified coordination platform that facilitates effective communication among all the stakeholders in the sectors. We totally believe that tech defense industry could become one of the biggest in the world after the war is over. And we totally believe in that. We have created Army of Drones initiative. Under this program, Ukraine has seen an unprecedented increase in drone production. just to give you an idea, that since the beginning of this year, we see since May, we have more than 700 applications with the tech defense products in Brave One. So can you imagine, like 700 companies emerged that didn't exist before, and some of those companies already have a revenue more than 100 million year over year. I mean, a year. So all these achievements would not have been possible without extraordinary dedication of our people. And I'm immensely proud of their courage, resilience, and talent. So despite the most challenging years in Ukraine's history of independence, we're committed to technological advancement. And we continuously transforming our country into the most convenient environment for citizens and the businesses through the whole ecosystem of DIA product, which you can see logo on my t-shirt. And we do not pause our development efforts for even a moment, because we recognize that we have a profound responsibility to secure our future and the future of our children. Thank you for your attention, and I don't want to take any more time of the rest of the people. So let's go on. Thanks again.
Thanks. Thank you, Minister. I hope those applauses were heard all the way in Kiev. Thank you. And, I do think that, listening to the coordination platform and to the various things you've put in place to actually make life easier for companies operating over in Ukraine, there's a lot for us to learn over here. So maybe, we start taking some notes about digital transformation over in the UK from you. Thank you, Minister. Maybe we turn back to the room, and Maria, I'll come back online in a minute, but maybe we turn back to the room. Louis, maybe if I can start with you. You've been doing, obviously, Palantir has been doing a lot of work in Ukraine ever since, well before the invasion, but since the full-scale invasion. So, from the other side of the, as a company operating in Ukraine and trying to help as much as possible, what's your experience been like? What have you kind of put in place with the minister, with Minister Fedorov and so on? So what's kind of some of your experiences since the invasion started? Thank you.
Can you all hear me? So working great. Well, thank you first for having me. It's a real privilege to be here and to be talking with this audience and with the minister. So actually, just a small correction. We didn't work in Ukraine until the beginning of the conflict. So we had a number of Ukrainian employees in the UK, in the US, all over the world. So we were tapping into the very rich diaspora of technical talent that exists around the world. But we had not the presence in Ukraine, and we didn't work directly with the Ukrainian government. And sadly, the conflict was the trigger for that. So we've been active there for essentially a little over 18 months. And for those of you who don't know Palantir, we are a software company originally founded in the US, but now very much with a global footprint and a large presence here in London. We have about 1,000 engineers here. It acts as our sort of European headquarters, and I run our European business from here. The initial work that we did in Ukraine was very much on supporting the military with a war effort. I can talk about some of that, but probably not in lots of detail. But one very interesting development is in the last sort of 6 months, our support has broadened out to encompass civilian parts of government, and would be very interested to discuss that further with all of you, and particularly around the reconstruction teams, demining, etc. I've been now to Kiev, I think 12 times in that 18 months, so having not been familiar with the country until this point, have become fairly familiar since. And I think really as an external, what's really struck me is three things that are very exceptional about the Ukrainian tech scene. I think first is the talent. It is a phenomenal talent pool that is truly world class. That, I mean, is at the moment very challenging because, of course, many of the best engineers are in uniform. I think, as the minister alluded to, that will have, I think, over the medium and long term, a big impact on military technology, because effectively you have the country's best engineers currently fully focused on military use cases. And that will generate businesses and have an important spillover effect, which I think actually is the West broadly defined, we need to be ready to catch and benefit from broadly beyond Ukraine. I think the second thing is that diaspora I mentioned. I don't think you can underestimate how valuable that is to have, again, many of these engineers are in Silicon Valley. So many of Silicon Valley's great companies seem to have a Ukrainian founder or an early employee that's Ukrainian. And that is a very important family and network that can be leveraged. And so I think those are two really, really critical factors. But third, and in some ways, maybe the most important, is the leadership. And I do think the Ministry of Digital Transformation, work with lots of governments around Europe. We work with governments all over the world. It is truly unique in both the charisma and how articulate the ministers are, how technical they are. Maybe this is something to do with youth, but that's rare in most countries, that you have really genuinely technical people in important positions who get it. And they have been, like I said, very charismatic. I mean, it's if you think of Minister Fedorov, he captured so much of the tech world of Twitter from the moment the war broke out, that conversation with Musk. These things have been so important, and I think his profile is I think unique in the world amongst ministers of digital. And that sort of thought leadership, that ability to convene, to set a direction is a huge, huge advantage. And I think is something very special to the Ukrainian tech scene.
Thank you. And, it's kind of, we all know that because we've all been following Twitter for the last 16 months or so. But I think from the experience of actually working on the ground and working with the government and building things together, that feedback of just how easy it is in comparison, because we all know for anyone building a company trying to deal with governments is probably the kind of most complicated layer of doing business in a way. So yeah, it's fantastic to see about how great that collaboration has been going for you since you've started working with the Ukrainian government 14 months ago. And that's great, but I really want to know more about the Ukrainian IT sector. So, perfect time to bring in Maria. Delighted to have a memorandum of understanding now with IT Ukraine and working really closely on a lot of these events and opportunities to kind of connect our members and their members and work together a lot closer. So, Maria, over to you. Tell us a bit about the IT sector over in Ukraine.
Thank you. Hi there. Hi, everyone. Thank you for welcoming me here. So today I'm proud to speak on behalf of the IT Ukraine. We are a national association of IT companies that represent interest of over 90,000 IT professionals. And we are mostly operate at the entry point into the Ukrainian tech market for international businesses. And today I would like to speak more about how can UK companies benefit by working with the Ukrainian tech. And let me start from actually beginning, because Ukrainian tech has gained unique experience during this difficult time. And at the same time, we kept up the pace of IT development. So if you need a reliable partner, the Ukrainian company would be your best choice. For sure. And as you know, we have significantly increased muscles in defense tech and cybersecurity segments, but not only, even in the face of intense competition, Ukraine is strengthening in position on international market in the most progressive segments in IT, such as AI, blockchain, AR, and etc. So we are welcome you here, and we are welcome to cooperation. We need to have more contracts, and we welcome UK companies to cooperate with Ukrainian companies. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Thanks for that introduction. And I'm sure, there will be plenty of other opportunities to come out of this partnership. So thanks for being a trusted partner as we try to build this cooperation. I'll turn back to the room, and Odd, I'll come to you. You have been operating in Ukraine before the war and after the war, so you can make that comparison. So maybe, what's been your experience before? What changed since? What can you tell us, from that perspective of having been there for quite some time?
So ITER has been operating in Ukraine now since 2008. We established in a co-space with Microsoft in Kiev back in 2008. I hired our first employee there. And today we're just more than 300 employees in Kiev, mostly IT consultants, with development, QA engineers, and so on. It's been quite a journey, I have to say. Luckily for us, we had a very big footprint from the beginning within the financial services industry. So well-known brands such as MasterCard have been buying services from us for years. So compliance, security, business continuity planning was sort of embedded into how we operated, and we got a couple of hiccups along the way. The Maidan case in 2014 was definitely a trial for us. And ever since then, we applied something called tabletop exercises, where we sort of simulated worst case incidents several times a year, and we accelerated it through 2021. So that when I was awake at night to the 24th of February, my daughter was having a hard time to sleep. Then I was getting all these messages, and I had to call the war room. What was amazingly great to see is that these plans worked. So as a consultancy company, and I guess Deloitte also can relate to that, the utilization is a key indicator. So we were operating at the utilization at just above 90% through the period prior to the war. The 2 days after, we dropped to 54 and 56% respectively, which we thought was a bit too high, because the plan was then to relocate people to safe zones, and we also had a hub in Lviv. But from day number 3, it rose to over 80%, and from the second week, there was also a public holiday there. Then it was back at 90%. And ever since the war, we've had no customer turnover from Ukraine. We had 2 customers who had to do a transition due to compliance issues, but both of them are now looking at getting back. So Ukraine is still a vital part of how we want to operate and how we want to be perceived as a European technology and consultancy company. And I'd like also just to make a remark on this, because we made a statement which could be catched a bit cheesy, especially for me as a Norwegian. We don't like to be too cheesy about things. So we said that people first is a concept that we will apply. And the idea was that we will apply people first, then customer, and then company in the end. And the idea is that if you take care of the people, eventually you'll generate revenue and customer success. But it's had a tremendous effect. So the fact that we were actually sticking to what was, for example, when we were defining the evacuation routes or how to take care of people in case of an emergency, we let it be up to people themselves to define what was the family. Was it their cat? Was it their grandmother, their mother-in-law? And we said what to show, and that we hope that we will get back in the future. And what we see is that this also mirrored in how our customers stuck with us. So if you look at our customer portfolio intake through 2022 till 2023, about 80% of all our new customers actually engage in Ukraine, either because they said it themselves, they wanted to, or because we convinced them to go ahead with it. So we see that also companies with critical infrastructure, such as energy companies, grid companies, financial services, and so on, they are now also looking at Ukraine as a hub, not only because of solidarity, but I think that is an important factor, but also because of the consistency, the educational system that is still accelerating its pace. And not at least the competency and how it works in play with the mindset that we have in Northern Europe.
Thank you, Odd. And people first, not that cheesy. I would argue it's probably how we should all operate. So thanks a lot for sharing that experience. And last but not least, I'm going to turn to Mihailo. He's a new Tech UK member, been member of IT Ukraine for a long time, a Ukrainian company operating in the UK. So definitely a story to tell there about, what's so attractive about the Ukraine tech sector, but also what are the opportunities that you've found here for developing those partnerships with the UK market specifically.
Right. Thank you, Sabina. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. So I think I'll talk about why it makes sense to work with Ukrainian companies, what makes them so attractive, what are the benefits for the UK businesses to work with Ukrainian partners. I think the key reasons how I would put that is making sure that you can focus on your main business while taken care of. Earlier I worked with a client who went on a big digital transformation journey. But their main focus was on their customers, their people, and they were looking at various things related to kind of investing in their physical premises, into things related to expanding in Europe and so on. And with that came the digital element, which had to be transformed and changed. So we were working in partnership with them to understand the journey that the business was going through, and then how it relates to the technical aspects. So that related to changing how the users are registered, how the customer communication is performed, and what services are delivered digitally, which services are still kind of delivered physically, and so on, prioritizing them, and then moving into more like technical part of what needs to be changed in the apps, how the apps need to be migrated, and so on and so on. So kind of driving that from the business transformation part to the technical side. The other side, the other aspect of how Ukrainian businesses can be helpful is the specific technical expertise. And here we need to talk about which expertise specifically you are looking for, but we will hear today from many businesses in the defense sector, for example, in the drone technology. I can give you an example of selection of a specific face recognition technology to monitor the kind of entry and exit to the factory, warehouses, those types of spaces. So we have experience of working with the same technology in Ukraine for the customer that operates there, and very similar challenge. One of our customers here was facing very similar challenge. So what we applied is basically we applied the same knowledge, the same selection methodology, obviously with some tweaks related to the local market. Are these suppliers operating here? What are the specific requirements of this client, and so on? But the skill set, the expertise, the methodology of selection is very much transferable. And another aspect, I think, is when you need when you want to rely on kind of long-term delivery expertise, when you expect your partner to kind of go the journey with you together, and this has been tried and tested in the normal times, but also in the times of war. I can tell you a story about. Again, the cooperation with one of the clients when the war just started, and obviously it was very difficult. Like you said, it was very difficult. The people were moving around. The people were the priority was to put people in safety, and at the same time, the clients were expecting. They were worried about how their delivery is going to be affected. So. When I was responsible for the relationship with a specific client, we had demos every other Wednesday. So I turned up to the client's office on Wednesday, thinking if everything is going terribly wrong, at least I will be there to explain the situation and explain the perspectives, what we are doing in order to secure people, and then kind of get back with the delivery activities. But in reality, even through this kind of first week of the war, there was a lot of help by the company, but also real self-organization by the people. And then we had 6 sequential demos during the day when everyone turned up, starting from say 9:15, and the teams demonstrated what was the next kind of delivery iteration that was supposed to be done. What was ironic there is that that was the time of the tube strike in London, and then some people who were turning up from the client side, turning up to the office, they were, oh, sorry, I'm late today. There is a tube strike. We couldn't get here on time. But it was really fascinating to see how people delivered. Every team, all of those 6 teams who were working on the interchangeable projects. That was the beginning of that journey to kind of secure that cooperation and make sure that when the client was approached by suppliers from other locations, they still continued working with us, maybe changing a little bit kind of the configuration of the team, but those kind of early experiences of the war, resiliency, and the way how people cared about their duty to the client, that really was very significant. So I think my message would be for the British businesses is, my message would be Ukrainian businesses are not asking for any concessions or any kind of preferential treatment. We're just saying when you have a specific technology challenge, when you're thinking about a specific project, or maybe there is a kind of discovery exercise to be done where you want to bring a fresh view, fresh perspective, talk to Ukrainian businesses, bring them into the selection process as you would do for any other kind of procurement partner selection exercise, and evaluate the depth of thinking, the kind of ability to bring the cross industry expertise, and then make the decision on that basis.
Thank you so much. And I think you'll have the opportunity to do that in about 15 minutes. Talk to all the Ukrainian businesses in the room, because we'll go for a further coffee break. But before that, I will give you all like a few minutes, because you've been a very patient audience. So I appreciate that. But we will have time for questions. So please do think of those, and there'll be microphones circulating around in about 3 or 4 minutes time, because I still want to go back to the minister first. So Minister, you've heard a lot happening in the room today, but also there has been a lot of tech partnerships, right? You've had them with industries from across the world, with trade associations from the EU, from the US, from the UK, from a lot of partner countries that have shown support and built partnerships with Ukraine throughout this time. I'm wondering, what are some of the success stories? What have you seen come out of these partnerships? What you've seen in terms of like international collaborations kind of delivering on the ground for Ukraine, for the Ukraine tech sector, but also in terms of kind of their expansion, therefore, internationally, so helping the Ukrainian tech sector kind of succeed internationally. So if you have some of those good story examples before we kind of open up the floor to questions. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. That's a great question, by the way. I think it's worth to mention to the audience that in March this year, Ukraine and UK signed a digital trade agreement. And this agreement actually enables Ukrainian businesses to engage in more, I would say, efficient and cost-effective trade with UK. So we have eliminated all the like borders for electronic transaction, digital signatures, electronic contracts. I think that was like step to create an environment without bureaucracy as much as possible. And we actually became, as far as I remember, second country after Singapore that established this kind of agreement with UK. So I think that's like on the general level. And I think it's also worth to mention that we're doing together, I think with you too, the biggest association in UK, and I'm talking about TechBridge, which will connect Ukraine and the UK. And this basically the platform designed to facilitate investors, startups, companies, clients, and perform development of tech ecosystem in both countries. I think that with having people on the ground in UK and people that are dedicated in Ukraine, it's going to really boost our collaboration. I think also the successful example is that I mentioned this before about trade missions. So after a couple months of the war, you know that our borders are closed and for men, and it's kind of complicated. Even for women, it's kind of complicated because there is no civil aviation working. So we started to do trade missions, basically getting Ukrainian startups, Ukrainian companies in biggest trade shows and events like London Tech Week, for example, Collision in Toronto, Select USA, Startup Grind, TechCrunch, and many others. And this was really like a demand for that because we still have this vibrant startup ecosystem that aim to make products globally, but they were not able to face-to-face talk to investors. So so we have this data that after those almost a year of those trade shows brought them like 15 million in seed investments and venture investments. Without us, they were not. I don't think they were able to secure those deals. So, and we continue to do so. So, that would be all probably.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm glad you mentioned the digital trade agreement. You know, it's those things that happen in the background that are policy related that, don't necessarily catch attention or catch the news, but they're so important for, what was it? The environment without bureaucracy. I think everyone working in tech loves that. So thank you, Deputy Minister, for those remarks. Right. Questions from the room. I've been told nobody's getting coffee unless we have questions from the room. So, you will need to raise your hand and there will be a microphone coming your way. There we go. If you can say who you are before you ask your question.
Hi, Shamil Molachev, an IT entrepreneur. Just wanted to ask, what are the next main steps that you see with collaboration between the UK ecosystem and the Ukrainian kind of startups and IT companies?
Thank you. Any other questions in the room? I'll try to take a couple and then we've got one in the back.
Thank you. Dr. Anthony Evans, Open Banking Delivery. What would you recommend as the most effective approach for individuals such as myself who want to support Ukraine to become involved? Because understandably, people have to prioritize and they go for the big hit, if you like, the things that make a big difference. I'd love to make a big difference because I believe we can bring skills in cyber and open finance. But what's the best way to go about that and engage and make that difference we all want to?
Amazing. Thank you. Any other questions in the room? Oh, got one more here. And I'm afraid the rest of the questions will have to be for the coffee break. The gentleman here in the fourth row. And then I'll turn to you so you can all think about what you want to pick out of those.
Yeah, this is to both of you. Joshua Bauer-Sol, so I'm an IT entrepreneur as well. We operate a platform called Team for UA in Lviv for the last 18 months. And one of the things that, very specific thing we're facing is the change in legislation on December 1st regarding incoming humanitarian aid that is managed by organizations like Team for UA. So Team for UA manages for WFP, UN, USAID aid streams for the last 18 months, 30,000 tons of aid distributed in the frontline cities and many other projects, including with Macclesfield Ukrainian aid here in the UK. We have a big problem with that December 1st legislation that will require a lot of paperwork. We already have convoys that wait 6 days at the border. And it seems to me that this is a specific target for digitization And I'm wondering whether the Deputy Minister is aware of it, or if in the IT sector there's some work going on in that area, Maria.
Thank you so much. I'm sure the Deputy Minister hates paperwork from what we've heard so far. So he'll try to do everything to make that easier. Maybe we start in the room and then go online if that's okay. So you can pick on anything, any of the questions that make sense. I think, the business experience, how to support, and then we'll go online. So Odd?
Yeah, sure. About making a difference, if that was open banking related, I think it was. Yeah. I know that the UK has been like a forerunner in Europe when it comes to cooperating with Ukraine. From the Norwegian side, we have been taking position also in connecting entrepreneurs, IT companies, construction companies, and so on that also wants to get engaged. So answering that just straight out of that one-liner would be hard for me right now, but I'll be more than happy to share the experience that we've had. I'm also traveling to Krakow after the conference today. I'll be in Kiev on Thursday. So I'll also be more than happy to connect you with the contacts that we have in Kiev. So that's like the short answer. But I'd like to emphasize one thing that I think I was hoping would come from the room here, and that's related to what it takes to stay in this for the long run. Because right now we see that fatigue might be the biggest issue that we are facing operating in Ukraine. We see that we have colleagues, we have businesses that we are working together with, that are right now, they're again tired of the war, if we could put it that way. And with the rising tension around the globe, I think that our ability to be consistent, have the resilience and stamina to stay in this is so important. And this might be the biggest conflict even for the next decade. So the fact that we actually have an opportunity to choose what side of history we want to be on and make a difference by kind of engaging directly rather than just speaking about it, I think that's enormously of importance. So it's more like an appeal here that we see that there is a lot of positive movement, especially now from the businesses. Just the last few months, we've seen, especially in the Scandinavian countries, I think the UK has been a bit more proactive than in the Scandinavian countries. But the fact that we have moved from sending blankets and socks to now looking at how can we actually invest in businesses, making sure that we keep the brains within Ukraine. We might utilize their competence, and that's great because we want to contribute and get something relevant out of it. But we want Ukraine to maintain a relevant player in Europe as well. So that's really important that we focus on moving forward.
Thank you, Odd. That's really important to kind of, touch upon the elephant in the room, which is the fatigue and everything else going on and competing for attention in world affairs that I think Julian started with today as well. So really important point there. Thanks. I'll go online. Maria, anything you want to touch upon? I think especially when it comes to kind of supporting next step in collaboration, some of the questions in the room, anything you'd like to touch upon there?
Yeah. Thank you for these questions. Okay, let me start from the first question regarding the collaboration and next steps. So last month, our association, together with the Ministry of Digital Transformation, presented the Incredible Tech Catalog. This is the catalog that includes probably 100 IT companies and IT products. And the main purpose of this catalog is to present to our international partners and investors and different companies, especially from the UK, companies and products that are ready for scaling and open for investments. So you can just follow this catalog and find relevant partners or relevant investment for yourself or for your partner. Then next year we plan a few networking events in London. So also please following our news, and probably they will be in the framework of Tech Bridge events. So we welcome all UK companies to communicate and collaborate with Ukrainian companies. So this is the first step for communication and collaboration with the Ukrainian companies. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. I'll go back to Alex with the paperwork question. Besides everything else, but we have a gentleman here with desperate plea for less paperwork. Can we help him?
Well, I just want to, before answering that, I just want to compliment what Maria said into the question that what's the next step and how to help. So I also believe that the next step is kind of show our capabilities. And I think the best way is once we launch this Tech Bridge in the beginning of next year, we were thinking about getting a big delegation from Ukraine, and also using this opportunity to maybe to invite Tech UK members and everybody that interested. So we can meet each other. Maybe it could be a set of seminars or meetings and speeches that disclose the potential of our tech sector and what we do, and showcase the companies. So you'll be more familiar with what we do. And this catalog, and we have this website with all these companies that do all like own products or outsource. That's just a tool to make it convenient, but it's very important. In terms of help, there was a question about help. So how you can be helpful? I usually say this in events like this, that the best way to help Ukraine is to invest in Ukraine. So I think that today we have this. I mentioned this, a booming defense tech industry. We have braveone.gov.ua where you can apply for if you have a product related to defense tech, or there's another form on the website where you can apply if you're looking for like partnerships. So two separate streams, and this is related to defense tech. The rest is could be covered by this bridge thing, and just in case you're looking for like a donation instruments and tools, United 24 is our official government fund with different streams, not just military related, but also humanitarian. And about the last part. This volunteer thing. So yeah, I'm familiar with what's going. I heard that from January 1st, it's going to be more complicated because there are additional like papers for accountability and the different procedure. I know that some of the volunteers inside Ukraine already like formed a voice to tell government just to postpone it. It's not my domain, but maybe it might be postponed or changed a little bit. But just for the sake of clarity, in the first couple months, all the help was just going without any customs. Then there was like basic customs that was checking very basic things. So what I'm trying to tell, my point is that we lost accountability. And I just want you to understand that those measures are necessary because we also want to account everything that going inside so we know where it comes next, where it goes next. So this is required steps from like logic standpoint, like, because you don't have an idea how much help you get and where it's directed. So it's kind of bad. So maybe what they proposed is overkill. I didn't go into it, but I think the ministry, we as a Ministry of Digital Transformation, definitely make it easier, even with the procedure that is provided right now. I think if it wouldn't be postponed, we would propose changes to make it digital anyway. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Alex. I mean, we are closing into the coffee break, but I'm going to ask for a minute more of your patience because I do want to end on an optimistic note. So I will ask all of you in like 10 seconds. Can we do that? 10 seconds. What makes you optimistic about the future of the Ukrainian tech sector? Let's start with Mihailo here.
The fact that it's operating, the fact that people are very much committed to continuing providing the service and developing their skills.
Thank you. Odd?
Well, there's always a time after the war. So I think I'd focus more on the actions that we make now because they will eventually echo into how it will all be perceived in the future.
It's very straightforward, the talent. I think it's world class.
Thank you. Maria?
Actually, one of our superpower is combination of the quality management and high complexity of the task and team and our team solve. So, in case of R&D solution, please choose partners from Ukraine, and we will be happy to collaborate and cooperate and do best for your business also.
Thank you. And Alex?
Well, if we talk about superpower, I think my answer will be short. This is talents. That's
Go come back a lot to talent, and I'm glad we do have a talent panel this afternoon to continue this conversation and go more in depth into it. But would you join me in thanking my wonderful panel and the audience for the questions? Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex and Maria, for joining us online. We now have a short coffee break, so do go and speak to your other, tech companies in the room and build those partnerships.